Alright, what's going on, guys? George here, and today we're going to be working on the 240SX once again. We are going to be doing our fuel pump, fuel filter, as well as installing our SR20 370cc injectors. So let's get right into it. So these are factory SR20 injectors and a factory SR20 fuel rail. We're going to pop the injectors out of here. Hopefully the O-rings are still in good condition. We'll be able to pop them into our KA fuel rail. And in theory, that should be it. We just plug them right in, but we shall see. Alright, so now we're just going to get right into this. This is my ghetto power, and this is just the standard connector. This bolt is cross-threaded, so it doesn't really move, so we just spin this around it.
Yeah, listen.
We'll see if we can, I can't remember if I could manage to pull it out last time without undoing these fuel lines. Okay, so we're going to pop these fuel lines off so we can get this out.
They call me Mr. Divine. Yeah. Wake up with champagne for me.
Trying to not drip as much gas inside the car as possible. So here's our Walboro 255, and it's going to be replacing the factory Nissan fuel pump right here. So pretty much we're just going to have to go ahead and pull the factory one off. Doesn't look too complicated.
No, I had to cover this song.
What can I say? I'm still breathing.
It's kind of underrated if you ask me. Let's go.
Alright, old fuel pump no longer in the car. Our new fuel pump has these wires here. That's why we chop this. I went ahead and pulled the old connectors off the old fuel pump wiring. So we're going to be able to pop our new fuel pump in. This very small sock that's in the bottom. That one's a lot bigger, but I'm sure just don't run out of gas.
Just gonna stay. Teenage dreamers on its way. I told my mother I grew up. What can I say? I'm still breathing. Falling in love.
Listen, I can't.
Alright, the fuel pump is in place. Now we're going to go ahead and use our connectors. So this is what I feel slightly more appropriately sized butt connector that I can use to wire the fuel pump in. Alrighty. Round two, we need another one. Alright, so we have this all connected. Really quickly, I'm going to go ahead and just plug it in for a second and make sure it turns on. I know it's going to turn on, but before I just put everything away, I'll just try it real quick for 1 second. We're not going to burn out the fuel pump. Don't worry. I just want to turn the ignition on and see if anything does happen. If there's no battery in the car, I'm going to go put a battery in the car and then hook up the wires and then turn the ignition on. Never mind, I'm not going to do that. It'd be a lot of work. I know this is going to work. So I have trust. I put 2 wires in here. If that doesn't work, I'm going to be really confused. So what we have here is an O-ring for the fuel pump. The reason I purchased this initially is because after I took a look at the fuel pump last time, because I thought possibly that was the reason why the car didn't want to start, I noticed that there was not a gasket in here, and then I just still put it together and drove. And there's always like a little smell of fuel in the air. And it's most likely because it's missing this gasket. So I'm going to go ahead and install this gasket. Also, I was just like looking in the fuel tank, and it would not hurt for me to flush this out. But this will just help a little bit with like the excessive amount of gasoline vapor in the air. There.
Sit around venting to my girl no more. I'm trying to get out and dominate the world for sure. I'm trying to give these guys lines they won't think to ignore. And just to rap for some change, I'll fly to sit.
Alright, there we go. We got our fuel lines hooked back up. And, oh, we gotta tighten this one down. Then we'll go ahead and reinstall the hardware that holds down the fuel pump.
Singapore, tired of playing on my back, thinking about these artists, trying to understand why the hell they bigger than Marvin, when Marvin got the flow.
Alright, we got the fuel pump done. Probably should like fix this wiring so it looks pretty sketchy. So in the 240SX, I'm going to be running an RS enthalpy tune, and I was talking to Martin down there, and telling him about the setup, and I sent my ECU out to be tuned. He said I should probably go ahead and rewire the factory fuel pump because the wiring kind of sketchy from the cars from the factory, just in that it's been sitting there for 25 years, and sometimes the fuel pump doesn't get full power and it can lean out the whole car and blow up your motor, something we want to try and avoid doing. So I'm not really going to make a video of it, but I'm going to be putting a relay on the fuel pump and hooking it straight to the battery so it never loses the proper amount of voltage it needs to pump adequately and we don't blow up the car. Off to the injectors. So I'm going to start by just removing one of these injectors and just comparing it to the other one, make sure everything looks all nice and good. I need a better screwdriver.
Marvin got the rhythm while they ain't got Marvin. Marvin just don't get it. Remember at 17, I spoke to Mary J's label. Too hungry to know they fed fables. Eddie F said the mixtape was dope. He sent me a hot beat and he told me to flow. When I ain't get the green light, something told me to go. The music ain't seen right, so I put it on hold.
So you can see I just removed the old injectors from the KA, and I did it when the fuel rail was attached to the car, which I didn't think anything of it. But upon learning more about the tune and everything that would go along with it, I learned that, and I guess also just using a little bit of logic, when I pulled the injectors out, there was still fuel in the fuel rail, fuel in the fuel lines near the fuel rail, and all that fuel just got dumped into the cylinders when I pulled the injector out because there was nothing holding the fuel pressure anymore. So I highly advise taking the fuel rail off the car. It's like 3 or 4 different bolts you take off. You can just pull it out, put like some paper towels underneath or something that will just absorb the fluid so you don't just dump fuel into the cylinders, and it's just not so great. To get out the stuck injectors, just take a pair of pliers to the thing. Probably not this plier because these are just wrong and the vice grips won't fit in here. Might have to take this fuel rail out or just like put a notch in there so I can get a flathead screwdriver on it and just yank it out. There's just not that much room in here to fit a pair of vice grips. Well, I think I broke this other injector, but I did get the bolt loose. Yeah, that's funny. Oh man. I broke plastic. That's unfortunate. This is so stupid. Why am I breaking this much?
For like a second, I came back in and broke necks. Gave beats to work, but I never got a check. Damn.
Sleeping through the day, wake up with champagne for me. I told my mother I would quit. What can I say? I'm still breathing, falling in love.
Major key: break them loose with a pair of vice grips. Then you can take them out very easily with a screwdriver, without screwing up the head of the bolt. Because these are stupidly tight or just like seized for some, well, they've been bolted onto here for 25 years and never taken apart. It's not magical that they're seized. Take them apart.
What up?
Just gonna stay. Teenage dreamers on its way. I told my mother I grow up. What can I say? I'm still breathing.
Listen.
Haven't broken an injector yet.
And now I'm 20 and I hear people checking for me.
So as you can see, the little bolts that hold in the caps that hold down the injectors were stuck, so I went ahead and just took a pair of vice grips to them, was able to break them loose, and I could undo them with a screwdriver. Didn't mess up the heads of the bolts. Would recommend if they do appear to be stuck, if you ever do this to your car.
And I'ma make 20 mil before I turn 23. And no, I haven't signed a deal, I'm investing in me. And though it's taking kinda long, I know it's destined to be. And with the honesty, you need to acknowledge me, cause I'm smarter than all of these wannabe prodigies, I go harder than. And this whole industry's been a tease, I'm no part in that. All I need is a simple beat and a garden hat. Cause the green I see growing from my delivery will have me talking to banks like it's Carlton and Hillary. Wanted to be Will until I realized that I am legend. And for the doors to success, I have been the key. Anyone can tell me stop, but will I do it? Not unless my brain stops and doctors tell me that I'm stupid. So admire my...
So just to add in here a little bit about the injectors and what I did wrong on that. I'm getting a tune, or I already got the tune from RS Enthalpy. Martin, he helped me a lot because I messed up a lot. So I had already done almost everything to the car before I talked to him about the tune. So after I sent him an email, I was like, yo, this is what I want, yeah. He was like, he sent me this list of things to talk about and to do to make sure everything would work. And one thing on the list was when you reinstall the injectors with the O-rings, coat the O-rings in dielectric grease. If you don't do this, you're going to crack them, they're going to leak, and your engine's not going to run properly because you need too much fuel. Because there's just fuel pressure leaking through the injector
O-ring into the combustion chamber. So obviously I had already put the injectors in. I was like, it'll be fine. I don't need to do that. Why would that happen to me? I'm fine. They're not going to leak. So go to start the car. Won't start. Call them up. Did you do that thing to the injectors? Put the dielectric grease on? No, I didn't really do that. Pull the fuel rail out. Pressurize the fuel system. One of the injectors is leaking. But that's enough so that the car would not want to start. Now I fixed that. One of the O-rings actually cracked. We went ahead and replaced it with the one I took out of the stock K fuel rail. One of the lower O-rings. Greased them all up. Installed. No more leaking on the fuel rail. Very good. If you do this, coat your injector O-rings in dielectric grease. Make sure they're not cracked. Make sure they're in good condition. Buy new ones if you need to. You'll be happy that you did that, and everything will be good. So now we got the fuel pump done and the injectors. We're going to go ahead and install our new fuel filter. This is an ISR Z32 fuel filter. It's designed for a Z32. I guess that's just the thing, but people put them in SR20s, or on SR20s, they put them on KAs. It's just a new fuel filter. Hopefully get some nice flow. Filters the fuel very nicely because the old one looks very terrible. And to go along with the new fuel filter, we went ahead and got some new fuel line because there's some cracked fuel lines going up across the intake manifold, and every time I go to a racetrack, the tech inspector gets very sad when they realize that the fuel line pretty much is like a big crack, and it's like, how is it even holding fuel? I don't even know. And it's like, we probably should just switch it out for a nice new one. And it's easy, except for the fact that this stuff is extremely expensive. This is actually fuel injection hose. It's very expensive. I would advise not using vacuum hose to hold fuel because it's like not really designed for it. Fuel injection hose, install. So what we have right here is our very cracked fuel line, and you can just see how terrible that is. Like, that's the fuel line holding pressurized fuel going into an engine around hot things. So this is definitely going to have to be replaced. Now we're also going to go ahead and replace this return line over here, and then you can see our fuel filter right there. So we're going to go ahead and switch that out for our brand new one. So this piece on the bottom of the fuel filter is not trying to come off, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut it, and I'm just going to make the fuel line that goes from the this hard line up here down to the top of the new fuel filter a little bit longer, and then it should make up the gap. So, good.
You're tired, but most important, my fluid, because the lines that I'm spitting got listeners trying to do it, dude.
So we have the bottom fuel line hooked up. Now I'm just going to go ahead and remove the other hose clamp from the fuel line. Now we have our special hose clamp right here. It's actually designed for fuel lines. Go ahead and put that on with our new hose that we're going to have to cut to size. And if anyone's wondering, this is 5/16 fuel injection hose that I'm using here.
That choice right here.
First, we're going to go ahead and tighten the hose clamp that attaches the fuel line to the fuel filter. So now we have to get this line to go up to here. We'll probably get it to go like there. We want it to have a little bit of slack. We don't want anything to be super tight. So we're going to go ahead and cut it right there. I'm going to go grab a razor blade for this one.
Love life. M to the fourth letter. That's deep, you already know.
This is the return line. We're going to go ahead and pull this guy off. Looks like we're going to have just enough line, maybe a little bit of extra. Yeah, we're going to have about 2-inch extra line, which is pretty good because this stuff is pretty expensive, and I only got 2 feet, but I think he gave me a little bit more than 2 feet, so perfect amount.
What up? Still breathing, falling in love every evening. All my supporters. Once again, I thank.
Take our hose clamps off. Alright, and then this length looks about good for the return line, so I'm going to go ahead and chop it.
Hey mom, I'm gonna make it, I promise you that. Tyler,
Teenage dreamers,
Austin, Corey.
And now we're good. We got our fresh new fuel lines and our new fuel filter on the car, and now it's not going to catch on fire. So if you did enjoy this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll be seeing the car very soon. We've got some oil stuff to do. We've got some vacuum lines to figure out, and I mean, that's pretty much it. Some small things here and there, then we'll be boosting down the streets.
I'm still breathing,
Oh, yeah, man.
falling in
Gotcha.
love every evening.